can almost feel it as you're talking to clients, how much it's changed, right? As they're trusting more and more over time, as AI is becoming everywhere in our world, our day to day.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook presented by Forder and Marketing Architects. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. Today's guest is Maxx Blank, COO and co-founder of Triple Whale, the AI operating system now powering data and analytics for more than 60,000 e-commerce brands. Max's path here wasn't a straight line. He grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a family that ran a jewelry business, studied healthcare administration at Ohio University, and got his first taste of entrepreneurship running a college daily deal site. From there, he spent time building ventures in Israel, worked with Amazon sellers, and eventually built Madison Braids, a direct-to-consumer brand, with his wife, before all of that experience fed into what would become Triple Whale. In this conversation, Maxx and I get into how Triple Whale evolved from a simple mobile app tracking e-commerce metrics into a full AI-powered platform anchored by Moby, their conversational AI analytics tool. We talk about why AI adoption looks so different across client segments, what separates brands that are ready for it from those that aren't, and why data quality and critical thinking still matter as much as ever, maybe more in an AI-first world. Before we get started, a quick thank you as always to Max Branstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at max@maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Welcome to the Marketing Playbook Podcast. My guest today for episode 152 is Maxx Blank. Maxx is COO and co-founder of Triple Whale, the AI operating system built for modern e-commerce, serving 60,000 plus brands with everything from measurement and attribution to agentic AI that autonomously executes the work of running a business. Entrepreneurship has been the through line of Max's life. He's built and scaled multiple D2C brands on Shopify, living every operational headache the platform now solves. That operator's instinct is what shaped the earliest bet he and his co-founders made, that trusted measurement is the foundational layer making true business automation possible, a conviction that became one of the company's most enduring competitive advantages. Today, Maxx leads the operational engine behind one of the fastest growing AI companies in e-commerce. Maxx, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, 60,000 of anything is pretty substantial. How does somebody amass 60,000 clients?
It is massive. When I think back to like where we were 5 years ago, it was just really just like AJ and I back in the day, looking at like, oh, how many did we get today? How many did we get today? Right? It's pretty astonishing to see, how much is kind of just taken off. But yeah, I think it's a combination of, in the product itself, we came from the problem. So we built a product for ourselves, being sort of scrappy, startup brand entrepreneurs back in the day, right? We knew the pain. Like I can remember being on early sales calls. People didn't know who I was. They didn't know my experience, my background, but the way that I walked through and demoed the early version of Triple Whale, they were like, "Are you an operator?" So I just think that like really understanding the problem, building an experience around it, and then making it for a non-technical user, more for a performance marketer, which is where, all of us grew up in this space, like that, like one click, like I don't want to have to configure too much, just like let me go. So I just think that was what did it. And then having, some of the wins we had with the iOS updates back, in 2020, 2021, further cemented us with our attribution, like solution, our pixel, just kind of like kept the whole thing going, really put wind in our sails. And then it's just been, when Shopify announced that they invested in us, I think that kind of cemented us as the leader in the attribution and analytics space. We became embedded into the workflows of new brands, and agencies help us tremendously, bringing us brands. And yeah.
All right. It's awesome. We'll come back to Triple Whale and all that you do for those that are not working with you today. But, as I mentioned to you, this is to some degree the Maxx Blank show. We want to let people get some perspective of your background and what we like to call the first story. So where you grew up and how your upbringing might have suggested that you would establish the career that you have had.
Okay, yeah, this is good. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Underrated city, by the way. It's a great place. No traffic. It's like about 8 minutes to my door from my house to my office. So it's definitely a pleasure. No horns being honked over here as opposed to, let's say, New York City, but definitely underrated and a great place to grow up. The youngest of four kids, and I think growing up, my family early on, my early memories are my grandfather, my mother, and my father running a jewelry business in downtown Columbus. And that seeing the work ethic and seeing like the holiday seasons when it came around, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, these things were like embedded in me and like understanding the sales cycles and how to present and how to sell and how to talk. And my parents were always doing that. My grandfather was a huge, left a huge impression on me. And just kind of growing up in that environment and just having that work ethic and sort of entrepreneurship instilled into me from an early age. And then, I went to Ohio University. I did not do anything with my degree that I do now today. I'll just, like me and lots of other people, I actually studied long-term healthcare administration in geriatrics. And so nothing to do with e-commerce, nothing to do with tech or AI, or maybe now you've got AI, but that really, I went through college, and then the end of my college degree, my experience there, I got involved in a startup that was like my foray into entrepreneurship at like a more mature level. Like I understood how to, find labor, let's say on Fiverr or in the East, and arbitrage it in the West. And I got into a startup where we basically had a college daily deal site around the same time Groupon became something. We had a college town focused daily deal site that basically partnered with local, eateries, delis, salons, and so on and so forth, and got college kids deals on things they do every day. And that was like the first thing that I got into when it comes to like tech and entrepreneurship and learning how to sell and market and understand networks and patterns and sort of all the things you need, customer service and all the things you need to understand to kind of build a business. And that was my foray. So it's the end of my college degree. Yes, I mean, there's a lot there. We can go in different directions, but I think
Right.
that,
But then fill the gap for me after that, and how many years elapsed before Triple Whale became a thing?
yeah, so that was like 2010. And I went over to, after I graduated, I actually went over to Israel and got very involved in learning about my background and I did not grow up a religious Jewish person at all. I got just really turned on to it. And the entrepreneurship behind, I think, the Jewish faith and in the Jewish community in general, really, I got plugged into that. And I learned more of the traditional outlook on Judaism. And I really flipped my life around and like started keeping kosher and living a more traditional lifestyle. At the same time, I was building businesses there. I got into different networks, different startup networks in Israel, because it's one of the biggest startup capitals of the world. That's actually where I met my co-founder AJ, and Ivan was in Jerusalem working on different projects. Right after the college thing kind of died, and I was on to the next thing, and I was working on different projects over in Israel. And I actually got back into like the college promotion space while I was in Jerusalem, where we started another tech startup where it was like a Zillow copycat, but for college towns in America, where you would go and find campus housing on a map experience and try to find rentals and things like that. And that's what brought me back to America after I was already married and had a couple of children. And that was just another, just taking all the lessons I had building businesses and trying different things and failing multiple times, but taking each lesson with me along the way. I ended up back in Columbus, Ohio. That's the base of this new company, basically, that I had started out of Jerusalem because it was college focused in Ohio. And like not all, but a lot of startups, a lot of them fail, right? So that thing failed. And I found myself consulting with Amazon sellers who were looking to diversify, have their Amazon shop, but also their own D2C brand. I call the mothership, like your own Shopify store that you can control your customer list and your destiny. They wanted to figure out how to create a Shopify store based off of an already successful Amazon shop. So I started building those brands and those websites and running paid traffic and understanding the whole life cycle of a D2C brand. After doing that for about a year, I looked at my wife and I'm like, I'm going to do this on my own. And started back in the day drop shipping, the good old drop shipping experience from AliExpress to Shopify using an Oberlo or a Dropify, and the quickest way to kind of validate an idea and get off the ground. And I did that for a couple of years, and I hit some successes, rapidly testing new ads and creatives and drop shipping and learning customer success, but really learning the fundamentals of direct response, paid media marketing.
What would you say, you said you had some startups, they failed. Were there some consistencies that you took away from the failures that helped you, establish, something that was eventually very successful?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest consistency across every experience was just grit and just keeping going, right? Like honestly, that was so many times when you had a failure. And I went through probably 8 to 10 businesses that I really invested my time, whatever money I didn't have, into them. I found it, but to keep yourself moving and keep yourself going, that to me is grit, and that's the majority of the journey. Grit, the people who you surround yourself with, the network you create, and of course the product and the outcome you're trying to deliver, making it very clear and tangible for the customer. Yeah, I think just always taking those lessons and putting them into the next thing, right?
So you also mentioned, about rapidly testing and learning, and I think there's lots of brands that talk about wanting to do that and they try to do that, but they're really not very good at rapidly testing, reacting, and reading results, and then, leveraging onto the next thing. What did you find to be the secret sauce for you to be able to execute rapid testing and measurement?
I think there's like two evolutions of this problem and this solution. There is pre-AI and then there's post-AI. So I'll talk about the pre-AI.
Before you do that, where do you define what's your your timeline of pre and post AI?
Oh, post-AI is like 6 months ago, like a year ago, whenever, when these systems became real, maybe a year and a half ago. Whenever ChatGPT became like, oh, wow, that's it. When everyone kind of got that aha of like, what is AI? What can it do? How can I leverage it day to day? I think that's really when ChatGPT launched, was kind of like oh, I get it, for a lot of people, early adopters. So what is that, 2, 3 years ago?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So I interrupted you. Yeah. Go back to the rapid testing and measurement.
Yeah, so let's talk about the rapid testing. This is pre-AI, but creating a system, and that system by like, oh, here's an SOP that I had a few outsourced like VAs help me just load up the ads, find the products on Ali. This is drop shipping days. This is before I actually got into having my own product inventory and own my own supply chain of a product, of a brand that was successful that my wife and I ran for a while. But in the early days of trying to figure out the D2C thing, right? It was, let's go find trending products, let's get them onto the site, make sure we can source them, and then let's find creatives around them that we can test new creative angles, versions, 5, 10 a day on a small budget, and then scale what works. But it's all about the discipline to actually have those moving, have that whole workflow moving, 5, 10 ads a day, doing that over and over again to find the winners. And you do that enough and you will start to hit it. But that whole process is very manual and hands-on approach that the post AI world, which we can talk about in a little bit, which we will,
Sure.
that is where I see the biggest leverage right now with AI.
This episode is brought to you by Forder, and they've got something worth hearing about. There's a conference coming up in New York on October 14th called Impact, and I'll actually be there. So if you're planning to attend, I'd love to connect in person. It's built for e-commerce leaders navigating AI, agentic commerce, and the very real pressure on margins right now. Practical conversations, senior people, real challenges to solve. If you want to go, and I think you should, there's a promo code that gets e-commerce leaders like you in for free. Just head to forder.com/impact and use the code PLAYBOOK, all lowercase, at checkout. That's Forder.com/impact, and the code is Playbook, PLAYBOOK, all lowercase. Enjoy the conference. So you build this out, you talk pre-AI, and I've spent my career, you talk about pre and post AI, I talk about pre and post digital, frankly, because I got my start in the catalog space, and in those days, measurement and attribution was challenging, in itself. Not nearly perhaps as it is today, because, in those days, you had a source code in the back of a catalog. Customer used the source code most times because it was tied to perhaps a promotion. And if they didn't use that code, they weren't going to get the benefit of the promotion. Then digital becomes more important, and you start to have things like Yahoo. Eventually, you start to get Google, and then you get Meta, and all of these different things. And then you have mobile devices, and you have desktop, and you have all kinds of different things. So a direct-to-consumer brand is sitting there. They want to move fast, but they're really not confident in their data. What did you see as the problem, and how did you try to solve it?
100%. Okay, great. So we got a lot of pre and post talk, but post drop shipping, figuring things out, which I call like my laboratory years in e-commerce, which is like drop shipping and stuff like that. So my wife and I had this brand, and she started it. Her idea completely, and the product was awesome. And that product was a pre-braided hair braid that she used to wear. That was very popular at the time because it was like on different movies and series and things like that. So this thing scaled out, right? So the original idea was that Orthodox Jewish women cover their hair with wigs. I don't know how many of your listeners know this is the thing. I'm sure you've seen it before, Mark. And so my wife did that, and she wanted to accessorize her wig, and that she would go to Brooklyn and find these pre-braided hair braids, but they're so expensive, right? And she's like, "I want to make them on my own." I'm like, "That's a great idea." And I was in New York City one day, and she called me up. She's like, "I need a name. I'm on Madison Avenue." And I'm like, "Okay, Madison Braids, right? Okay, it works, right?" So we go with that, and we go to market on a daily deal site that is specific for like that demographic. Orthodox women looking for like daily deals on fashion accessories.
Not a huge addressable market, I
No,
would
no,
imagine.
but this is a good story of how you can go from a small market to a big market and why you need to know your numbers and track. So we start there, we go, this website was called mitzias.com, which Mitzia is like a deal in Hebrew. So we listed these products on there, and it was like a marketplace, but they sent us traffic. It wasn't Amazon or like they sent us the traffic. So I knew it was a small market, but it's a good place to start testing things. So we started listing the products there, put the pixel on the site from Meta and Instagram, obviously, right? And we start retargeting across all the social networks and building up our data and our email list and our pixel and all that good stuff. And after about like 3 to 4 months of doing that and trying to learn the business a bit, we had a nice email list and a nice audience size on Meta. And I'm like, you know what? Let's try to make this thing broad, right? So we did a photo shoot and we made it a bit more broad and open, not just to that specific demographic. And I put some lookalikes together, and voila, the pixel worked. And we ended up scaling from, I think, year one, we did like $50,000. Year two, we did about maybe 1 to 2 million. And we were just off to the races. And I can vividly remember every day I would come in, every day on my Google sheet, right? I would have, my Meta spend, my Google spend, and my Amazon. I had like an Amazon listing as well with it, my Amazon revenue, my Amazon spend, and my Shopify revenue. And then I get my blended ROAS I had a COGS as well. And every day I just tracked that, right? Very simple, right? But just getting that blended ROAS target that I knew I needed to keep this thing profitable and make some money off of it to pay the bills. We had a growing family at the time. So we did that for a couple of years, and we ended up scaling that thing. And I ran that for like 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. And we had different products, we got into different categories. But for the longest time, it was just filling out that sheet. And as I got another ad channel, I made another column and another row in there, very manual. And then at some point, I'm like, okay, I need a mobile app for this thing. I need it because I had all these credit card points, right? You're spending online, you get these credit card points. Started taking my family around on trips, and it's great because credit card points. So I wanted a mobile app while I'm on the run, and basically had this vision for Triple Whale as is today, but not as is today. It was a very simple mobile app. I was over in Israel one time and I met up with AJ. He was coming off a startup that he had, my co-founder AJ. And I'm like, you know what? I want to create this app. I got e-commerce that's going well. He's looking for his next gig. I'm like, I'll pay you a couple grand, it's $10,000, $15,000. Let's make the first version of this. And I'll train you on ads and you can help me run the brand. And then he brought his wife and she started doing the influencer marketing, and my wife, and the four of us were running this thing together. And we hit COVID, and COVID just blew up. We did like $8 million that year. COVID, we had 2 Black Fridays basically, and the thing just, it really just went really well. And then as everything came back online, there's saturation beyond, and the CPM to the AOV to the CPA, like just Madison Braids wasn't cutting it anymore. So I had to scale back and told AJ, look, I can't pay you anymore. As you see what's going on. I got to refigure this thing out. Go take Triple Whale. We had it, our first version. Okay. I'm like, why don't you go see if we can get some more people to use this thing and see what the demand is really like. He had to finish a few things up while I reworked Madison. And by the time I reworked Madison, we already had about 50 stores that were loving Triple Whale.
So let's take a step back and Triple Whale. All right. How do you describe what Triple Whale is? And, with 60,000 or more clients, you've got lots of different types of clients, verticals, size of client. So give us the elevator pitch.
Triple Whale is basically going to give you that holistic view of how your business is performing, take the data involved in giving you that view, and then you can help you operationalize and automate with the latest and greatest from all AI to make decisions faster based off the insights you derive. That's basically what we're doing right now. It has gone from simple mobile app aggregation of your data to measuring what is working to now taking those insights and allowing you to accept, approve recommendations based on what we think you should do and based on what you have already been doing and told us what you do. So the rules you may have as a media buyer. And it covers not just media buying, oh, that's the majority, but there's creative solutions, spotting creative fatigue, and then leveraging like Seed Dance or Nana Banana, the creative models, and creating new flat lays or new, still images for new ads to, creating briefs to automating all of your reporting that you would need to send to your CEO that you're working for day to day in the D2C brand.
When you have a business like this, that at least in my perception has evolved tremendously now post AI, is it hard for you to get adoption? You can't get all 60,000 clients to use all of the features and capabilities of a tool, I would imagine. So how do you get the lead dogs to prove it out for you and then to bring others along?
This is like the multi-million dollar question. Like I think in general in the world today, when you look at AI and what it can do versus what people do with it, right? I think you have a huge gap. And obviously that gap will close over time as people get more and more educated. And we've taken a few different approaches. First of all, we have for like you kind of have like the high end, the bigger brands that want to go all in on AI and have budget and can do that, and have sort of spun up like a ninja SWAT team to get an AI pilled guy in there who can do magic with data and kind of start to get the teams working with data and get them all AI pilled. And then you got the low end of like, let's say the startup new entrepreneurs that are just, early adopters that understand AI very much. And then you have the middle, which is huge. And that is where you have this adoption gap. And we've taken a few different approaches. And to be honest, we're still figuring a lot of this out. But on the high end, we'll embed context, we call them context engineers, into brands. We'll sit with a brand. We'll see what are some of the goals that you have and what are some of the early workflows that maybe you already have right now that we can totally automate because we have all of your data, all of the frontier models right there. And you can schedule and put things on loops. And so we'll go in and grab a use case and help automate that and get adoption that way. On the low end, we have some pre-baked like app experiences that have insights to action with AI generated commentary and analytics in them. And really the idea is that how can we have Triple Whale kind of wherever you are on the journey, you're not overwhelmed, and we can meet you where you are and take you on that adoption journey where you can start to get really AI pilled, right? In Triple Whale, you have the ability to to do a lot of different things on top of your e-commerce data, that from marrying, for example, this is one of my favorite things that I would have loved to have done back, when I was running brands, but how can I take my customer success data, right? Really understand that, figure out how do I improve the product on a continual looping basis. Now you can marry that together and not have to wait for a team over here to get the data, to join it together to maybe this order, that order, this customer, but really understand how can we make things rapid, how can we take things that used to take a long time due to process and data silos and just speed them up.
If you like marketing conversations backed by data, I have a podcast recommendation for you. Hosted by CMO Elena Jasper, the Marketing Architects reviews research on popular marketing opinions to see what the data really says. Featuring effectiveness heavyweights like Mark Ritson, Brian Sharp, and Peter Field, alongside executives from brands we all know and love, conversations cover measurement, AI, and what happens when brand and sales goals collide. It's thoughtful, a little contrarian, and focused on ideas you can take straight back to your team. Search for the Marketing Architects wherever you're listening right now. Do you find that there are gaps? I've lived in lots of different brands. I've consulted with different brands. There's a different level of understanding of all kinds of technology within the brands. Do you find that you're further ahead, maybe further along than many of your clients are with their teams in being able to leverage the information you're able to provide?
Do you mean information that they sit on and how they could?
Well, they sit on it. They have the data. It's their data. My perception is that you're adding your intelligence and your AI capabilities and enhancing the data, and then feeding it back to people. They have to now trust that what you're giving them back is accurate. Once they get past the trust, they then have to be able to execute organizationally the things that you're suggesting. And I'm guessing many of them are not ready to do that.
For sure. For sure you have that. I would say that you can almost feel it as you're talking to clients, how much it's changed, right? As they're trusting more and more over time, as AI is becoming everywhere in our world, our day to day. But there's definitely that, how do you ask a question and get an answer and trust that answer? And that answer is only as good as the data that helped derive that insight to begin with. Clearly explaining what data means to people, what metrics mean, how we derive certain metrics. All these things are so important because if you have one bad experience with data, then you lose trust in the whole platform. And so there's a lot of things that we've done. Like Moby if you ask Moby a question about a certain metric, it'll proactively break down how we define something and educate.
What is that? What are you referencing? Moby?
Moby, yeah, Moby.
Tell everybody what Moby is.
I jumped the gun there, huh? Moby is Triple Whale is a data platform, right? That has an identity graph through it, which is our attribution. So you have all of your data and all of your customer journey data as well. What customer came from what ad channel, right? And that's our attribution and data platform. That sits in a data warehouse, which stores and normalizes data across your e-commerce brand. This is key to the world of AI. You have to have clean data that AI can understand. So on top of the Triple Whale account is what we call a harness, an AI harness, which essentially harnesses the power of AI by grabbing all of the frontier models, so ChatGPT and Anthropic's models, Grok, everything you can imagine that's out there with AI, and you can actually select what model you would like and test the limits of the different models. But what it's doing is it's allowing you to ask questions in the sort of conversational format that many people are used to with ChatGPT and Claude, but on top of your data right there. So you're not exporting to ChatGPT or exporting to Claude, but you can just ask the questions right there. And it has all that historical context of everything you've ever done in your e-commerce business. Not only that, but it will create ads, and it can create landing pages, and it can publish them and run traffic to them and already pixel them, so you're tracking things. And I think one of the most important use cases that we have right now is the ability to run the analysis with Moby on your ads, and he'll recommend you take certain action, and you can hit accept or disapprove, changing budgets, pausing campaigns, or launching new ads from within inside Triple Whale. So Moby is the operator on top of your Triple Whale account, and he's got all of the AI smarts that you see out there in the world right now.
There's so much talk in the industry about, the metrics that we should be optimizing for. We have ROAS, we have MER. What's your sense and your take on what brands should be looking at?
I think it very much depends, and it's sort of a generic answer. But one thing that I always look at whenever I look into an account is ROAS, is blended ROAS, and that's basically MER. So say MER, essentially like the one that I'm always looking at.
Okay, and how do you define MER for those that may not know?
Yeah, I would say all of your Shopify store. Some people put Amazon, and then to all your digital revenue, and then your digital ad spend, and then what is the metric that comes out of that. So what's the denominator there is going to be the spend over the revenue.
It's interesting. I find so many clients and brands, while they may use ROAS, they may use MER, they only have a ballpark idea of what a tolerable MER is for their business. They don't necessarily know exactly what it should be or within even a very tight range. What's been your experience there?
I mean, it all comes down to how well do you know your numbers. And I think the biggest, to get the data into one place, it's relatively simple to get that, because you're taking, whatever's being reported in Facebook from a spend standpoint, and then revenue from your system of record, Shopify, right? Those two things are going to be accurate. I think where things get a bit wonky and go sideways is how well do you know your cost of goods and your landed costs and your shipping costs. And that's where you think it's not a big deal, but if you have very thin margins and you've got the wrong landed cost inputted into Triple Whale to get to that net profit number, you could be scaling into a hole, right? If it's not right. So I think a lot of those inputted costs on cost of goods, and it's not just take my invoice from the factory divided by the units. It's like FIFO, LIFO, FIFO, LIFO, some of these accounting terms. It's also, how much did it cost to get it onto a boat, bring it over to here and get it onto the shelves and then pick and pack it. You got to get all that down, to get it really specific. And then you're getting into contribution margin and understanding that and how that relates to different ad channels. And the bigger brands, I think that's more of a real metric. So it's like goes from MER and kind of morphs into, okay, is this an incremental ad channel? And how's my contribution margin looking like? You got to have all those numbers down really tight.
We talked a little bit about, the pre and post on AI. What's been your sense of, people earlier in their career that you get exposed to relying so heavily on AI as opposed to, old guys like me who, started their careers way before AI? You hopefully, have developed critical thinking, how to interpret the numbers. Do you have a point of view there?
Yeah, look, I mean, AI is a tool, right? It's a tool that you can use to get leverage. I often talk about it internally and externally that right now AI is kind of like the Iron Man suit you strap on. You get a lot more done because you have this like bionicle suit, that kind of makes you half robotic if you do it right. But you absolutely need critical thinking. You cannot just, and you can spot it. You get an email, you get a response somewhere that they still have those M dashes in it, where they, the lines that come in on, AI generated copy that they didn't think to read through the copy or the email they're sending to you, and it's still very much there. But to just trust something right out of the box or to not, like, critical thinking is more important than ever. Like that is for sure. Yeah, like
Okay.
that should not change.
Yep. I believe you launched Triple Whale MCP. What is Triple Whale MCP?
So Triple Whale's MCP is allowing you to take Triple Whale's data of your plan's data, your store's data, and basically put it into a Claude or a Chat GPT and interact with it there. So if you want to build reports there, or you want to have questions about your data and you feel more comfortable, let's say in a Claude or a Chat GPT, you could do it there. So that's giving you that. And we believe that like we should be able to give you your data where you want it.
Got
So,
it.
Moby you can do the same types of things. I mean, there's a lot more you can do in Moby, but bringing the data via MCP out and in to a Claude or a ChatGPT, that's what that's doing.
Right. So you must, I would imagine, meet with CEOs, presidents of clients that you've got today or prospective clients. What are the one or two things that you're telling them now? Not so much that you can do for them, but whether it's you doing it for them or somebody else. What are those one or two things that they absolutely have to figure out in order to be successful?
Think about how does their organization look like once they really bring AI in operationally. And what I mean by like operationally is that they can trust it, they understand the data behind it, they understand how it's working and how it's serving up the insights and the recommendations, so that their livelihood is on the line here, their company's on the line here. They have to be able to really understand it. Once they got that, it's like, now how do I bring my whole company with me on this? And obviously, bigger brands, if you're 50 million plus brand, right, you're thinking more about organizational design, but figuring out how to operationalize AI internally, I think is one of the biggest things you can do right now, if not the. It's going to get you the
Got
most
it.
leverage.
Where does Triple Whale go next?
More like outcome-based work delivered, right? Can we help you achieve X ROAS on something by our technology or recommendations? And if so, like, we just want to deliver that to you. You just come in, hit a button, you trust us, and give you a report that we hit it, and you see it in the bank. Moving from a platform of features to a growth platform, right? We are there to help brands grow.
Hey, we're down to the end of the show. Really good stuff. Congratulations on all the success that you've had with Triple Whale and quite a career. Some mistakes along the way, it seems, but every good entrepreneur has them. And you need those in order to make successes. So we do a 2-minute drill here, Max. 7 questions, 1-word answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Collars & Co.
Favorite app on your phone.
It's called Opal. It blocks all things on your app, on your phone. It blocks everything on your phone.
Okay. Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
Kohan.
Something that you're not good at but wish that you were.
Sports.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
My children's day school.
Okay. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
Probably my tefillin. I don't know how to describe it to your audience.
Okay, yeah, that's well, I certainly know, but that's a good one. Max, where can people reach out to you on social media?
On X, REA Max, and on LinkedIn, Maxx Blank. 2 X's. That's easy to
Yeah,
find.
2 X's in Max, right? You can get thrown off on that one. So, hey, Max, nice to see you again. Thank you for sharing the successes and what you're thinking about at Triple Whale and all the things that you think about just in your own mind about AI and how to make D2C businesses more successful. So, have a great night and thank you again.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Maxx Blank for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, AI adoption depends on organizational readiness, not the tech itself. Maxx sees a real split between early adopters already using tools like Moby for conversational analytics and larger, more established brands who are slower to move, not because the AI isn't capable, but because their data quality and internal processes aren't ready for it. The lesson for listeners: get your data in-house before expecting AI to solve anything for you. And number 2, grit gets built through failure, not around it. Maxx talks openly about the ventures that didn't work before Triple Whale, the false starts, the pivots, the lessons learned the hard way. His point isn't that failure is inevitable, it's that the failures were the actual training ground. Founders who avoid failure by playing it safe often miss the reps that would have made them better operators later. And number 3, Triple Whale works because it was built by operators, not outsiders looking in. Before founding Triple Well, Max and his wife built and scaled Madison Braids, a direct-to-consumer brand serving Orthodox Jewish women, to $2 million in revenue using detailed data tracking. That hands-on experience of actually running a brand, not just analyzing one, is why Triple Well was built for non-technical operators first. The takeaway for listeners: the best tools and the best advice usually come from people who've actually done the work themselves, not just studied it from the outside. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.